Grab a glass, grab your favorite bottle. Gotta sip it slow, yeah, that's the motto. Get relaxed, no reason to trip. It's the boy Brocky, man, whiskey and kicks. We pour a glass, toss it up. Air Max ones on my feet, throw them up. Get relaxed, no reason to trip. It's the boy Brocky, man, whiskey and kicks. Kicking game on drinks and libations. Sipping on it slow, keeping with the patience. Freeze on my feet, you know I stay racing. Drinking straight up.
All right, man. Brocky, Whiskey and Kicks here with the legend, the man himself, Frank Mills.
Hi, sir.
What's going on, man?
Man, I'm well. I'm very well. Yourself?
Part two.
Yes.
I'm hanging in there,
I
man.
see that, man. I see that. Wonderful things. I'm staying on top of Whiskey and Kicks. Look at all this merchandise you got.
I'm trying to get the people a little hungry,
I'm
then
happy
I'll
for
feed
it.
them. You know
I'm
what I'm
happy
saying?
for it.
I appreciate it, but this is our anniversary, right?
Yes, it is.
This is part two.
This is part two, and it actually is exactly 2 years after the last one. It was President's Day week that we did the last one together.
Over at Jack Rose.
I was at Jack Rose, and then I celebrated our anniversary here at Roy Boys.
1 year
this
here at
past
Roy
weekend.
Boys.
Yeah,
We had a lot to talk
Indeed,
about.
Indeed.
You know, the first time it was really cocktail centric and based and everything. We got into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into that stuff.
Okay.
But you know, as I met you around that time, so as I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I will say as I've gotten to experience you over this time, we gotta talk about this.
All right, I'm here for it.
One of my first question, man.
Okay.
On Instagram, you're known as what?
Drink Mills.
Drink Mills.
Yes.
Your name is Frank Mills.
My name is Frank Mills. So you just remove one letter, add another, and there you go.
Two different. Is there a difference between Drink Mills and Frank Mills as far as the person is concerned?
The truth is no. I'm for lack of better terms, I'm a character. I think most people know that about me, but that's based on the fact that, you know, I've been to so many places in the world. I've met so many people. I'm very open to that. You know, I try to be as worldly as possible.
Yeah.
The one thing about Frank Mills was, and this is me talking in third person, was growing up, I did not like alcohol.
Word.
Yeah, that's like, it's something that people don't know. My friends started drinking very early.
Right.
Very early. I grew up in two different places, Alexandria and Herndon, Virginia, and both places, I'm talking about like 13, 14 years old, somebody was getting lit and sliding things into the party and whatnot. It wasn't until, so let's just say, unfortunately, underage drinking was happening. I didn't actually like consume a lot. It wasn't my thing. At best, by the time I got to college and everybody was having keggers, I like kegger parties. I was, you know, on Sundays, instead of finishing the keg, I was going to Kroger to go get bottles of wine and do my homework and watch, right. Sopranos and whatnot, and The Wire. It wasn't until roughly around 22 that, so shortly after, I became a legal adult to consume alcohol, that I started working in the bar industry. So now exactly 11 years. And it all began because I wanted to sell more. That was really my hustle muscle. That was like the fact that I could connect with people and then possibly put something on them to like.
So a completely different angle for everybody else who just want to feel good.
What really worked out was that Frank Mills loves to eat. Okay. And so I had no food aversions, I had no allergies, so I ate like 3,000 calories for like a decade long, every single day on average. Yeah, and I had all different types of flavors. I never turned anything down. And come to find out, I'm a super taster. I actually am able to derive the flavors from palates, or from my palate rather easily. Oh, okay. Which then allows me to then, find pairings and discern, items. And then down the line, educating myself, specifically starting with wine, which became my first love, terroir, varietals, regions, and understanding how they manipulated the grapes that drove flavor, then to beers, ultimately to whiskeys. I always started with things I liked, and then I went to flavors that I didn't like to understand why I didn't like them and why somebody else would.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's dope. So it's a lot of studying and research that goes into what you do.
Yeah.
So, but we won't get into that yet. So, I recall a night when I was over at at another bar over here on U Street. I'm chilling, and all of a sudden I see this man skateboarding in the middle of the street. This is like a Saturday night. So talk to me about your love.
Sorry about the phone.
Oh, it's all good.
It'll stop ringing in a second. We're not open yet.
You know I like chaos. I love chaos.
Hey, that's kind of my thing, you know. So it's funny. You talk about me longboarding. So I taught myself at 30 to do two things. Well, I took on these two things because I needed a new physical activity. I used to play football all my life. I stopped doing that. I was behind the bar. My legs were starting to feel bogged down. I realized it's because I wasn't as active. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and skateboarding were two things. At the age of 30, I said, you know what, this is something I'm gonna do. Because of those friends when I was younger, one being my friend Martin, who we'll get into that, who's a professional MMA fighter in Miami, and then all of our other childhood friends who were like urban skateboarders. We even in college built a half pipe ramp inside of our apartment. True story. There was 6 apartments in one building, and one of the apartments had a half pipe ramp in it. So that was like, if you came to Blacksburg on to visit us, you couldn't sleep at anybody's apartment unless you dropped into the half pipe, whether you knew how to do it or not.
Right.
Controlled chaos. My nickname, my true personal nickname is Reckless, but with a W. Reckless, not more. It was something that I cared about when it came to cars. My first passion ever. I've always loved cars since I was a kid. I have great clarity, great vision, hand-eye coordination, and great hearing. Thank you, my parents. You know, so it's always made me very, very well at driving. It's something that, off the top of my head, I'm kind of fearless in that. I'm reckless. I care more about the art of perfection than messing something up.
Right.
And so anything on wheels kind of became my thing because I started to understand inertia and valuing inertia and then enjoying speed. You just want to do everything that adds to that, you know.
Push it to the limit.
So DC's got a lot of hills, you know, a lot of street hills. They may not always be like the smoothest, but I learned specifically in Adams Morgan how to bomb 18th Street, 16th Street, and then 15th Street, which is really scary.
That's where
Malcolm X Park is. That back side of it, where I've done some stupid things there. Boy, look, I'm just like, thank God I still got my teeth.
Joe's daughter, she went to Morgan. She's at Morgan State, and she went like a few days after going there for the first time. Those classes starting up, she's on the scooter at night and falls and knocked out, and it was like this was the best experience of my life. Because she's a suburban kid. So she's like, I experienced something. You know what I mean?
You know, I will say this. This is just a segue. Scooters, and you know, they're motorized, and you have no roll cage. You have no doors.
Nothing.
You know, there's been some incidents in this city that, you know, just want to say shout out to my friends that, you know, are still here because they've had some bad spills, just like Joe's daughter, you know. So be mindful. Like I feel like I tend to, even though I'm pushing limits, I do it with a certain level of detail to just stay in control. Like even though I'm like on the teetering the line of like this could be dangerous. It's like I've calculated the risk.
Right. Which could still go awry.
I've been hit by a few. I've been hit by a few cars.
Straight up.
I went to work one day at Jack Rose. Actually twice. One time, I fell so hard that the shirt ripped and skin off my nipple ripped off.
Jesus.
Yeah, and I worked a Friday shift, start to finish. Like knee messed up, everything. Knocked
it out.
Ask some of my coworkers.
I certainly will.
They were definitely feeling sorry for me. They're also laughing behind them.
I mean, there's a natural segue from that into city living, which I want to ask you about. Yeah. But I have to bring up your dog first.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? When your dog is a boss.
When your dog is a boss.
Tell the people about your dog, man. Like, I see you out here doing all types of stuff with this dog.
So, I have a 4.5-year-old Italian Mastiff, a Cane Corso. Everybody says Cane Corso because it's spelled C-A-N-E.
Yeah.
But you've never heard an Italian person ever say the word cane. So Cane means canine in essence. Corso means like herding. I'm sorry, that's not the exact term, but it's like forget, it's not standing the course, but like they're grazing dogs. So they're herding dogs. The reason Cane Corsos exist, they're molassers that were descendants of Roman war dogs. So they're huge.
They're gigantic.
You know, there are multiple styles of mastiffs. There's, you know, the English Mastiffs, the Dogo de Bordeaux, which is from France. You have the Dogo de Argentinian, that's all white, the only Mastiff that like has that kind of color pattern that's legal. They're just big and aggressive. You have the South African Barbol that was meant to fight lions, right?
Gigantic.
Right. So these dogs, Cane Corsos, two things about them as Mastiffs. One, they're the least drooly. That was part of my notion of it. The reason being is because they're a lot leaner and a lot tighter, because they were actually herding dogs. They herded cattle, and like hence why the cropping of like ears and tails happened, so the cattle wouldn't bite their ears and tail.
Okay.
That's like the true functionality of it, not necessarily the form now that, you know, people are taking on just for the aesthetics of it, right? I'm not about that life. But with that, me always being an athlete, always trying to be on the move, I chose the Mastiff, big dog, that is actually the most athletic of all the Mastiff breeds. And I think that's probably where you're going at with this. So just so everybody knows, I tend to take Boss out everywhere with me. You know, he's a city dog.
Photo shoots.
Yeah, photo shoots in the middle of the streets. Because he's very confident, he's very comfortable, he's very charming. He's very much so, and without tooting my own horn, he's literally me as a teenager in dog form. Like he's so like ready to be aggressive, but he's so sweet and like playful and overly socialized. And at the same time, he's like, yeah, I'll do a couple dumb things here and there that I know I shouldn't. You know what I mean? He has a thing about body language and eye contact. You know, I talk to him like he's a human, you know, like he's my son more so than he's my dog. And I chose well. I got really fortunate, man. It's not only does he look good, is he big, but as big as he is, he's as sweet as he is. He's very exemplary. And he's also really active. Like the dog can jump things I just couldn't possibly imagine.
That's crazy.
And he's always up for a run. I'm not always up for a run. What I am able to do is longboard. Hey, that's
there you go. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. How about that?
I'm always up to longboard. So Boss doesn't need a leash. He doesn't get distracted very well. And he also knows where the food is at, because I feed his ass really well.
He's gonna follow you.
So he follows me everywhere. I'm talking, that is my genuine shadow. And the fact that he's Cane Corso blue, which is gray. He looks like a shadow too.
Yeah, his color is nuts.
Thanks,
nuts, man.
Thanks.
Did you have him since he was like 8 weeks?
7.
7 weeks.
Actually, it's funny. I think Boss and his litter mates probably should be bigger. He's 125, 130 pounds. They were taken off. This is a first-time breeder, but I looked over 4 different breeders in their like parents. Before settling with this guy up in New York, close to Long Island. And because of the necessity of not knowing enough, he took all the dogs off of the mother's milk at 5, which leaned them out. I noticed it from the gate, but I was so obsessed with Boss, and then the second I walked up, they put them in my hand. I was like, hey, you can go look at all the other dogs, but this is yours, right? Because I was so adamant about this dog for 2.5 years, or having a Cane Corso, that when I found this litter, I put down the first deposit. So I had the first pick of the litter. So Boss is, in my eyes, he's the best one in the litter. Like, I feel like I absolutely chose the right dog. And so when I got there, dude opens the garage door of his house, walks out with Boss in his hand. Boss's dad, Blue, is in the background. His dad looks like a damn bear. That's why I was about to call him Bear, not Blue. And he puts him in my arms, and I have a photo of that. And he's like, this is your dog, but come inside and see the rest of the litter, see the mother and everything like that. And I was with a friend, so I give Boss to the friend, and I go and I look at all the other dogs, and I was like, yeah, I can go back to that one right now. That's me.
That's dope, man. That's a good situation.
And so four and some change, almost 5 years later, you know, I couldn't have chose better, because, dude, he has FOMO like nobody's business.
Straight up.
Yeah, he wants to be around you. The second you're awake, he's up. But that dog sleeps when you're not around. So he's a perfect bartender's dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. You're a vampire. Man. You know what I'm saying? All night. So DC city living, I mean, you know, the city's changing a lot, whatever. And you're a city dude. You know what I'm saying? Now at least, because you said you grew up in like Herman.
I grew up in Alexandria. originally. That's where I was born. That was the majority of my time growing up until high school. Middle school and high school, my mom and my dad were separate, and so one lived in Alexandria, one lived in Herndon. I literally went to middle school at both places and high school at both places.
Wow.
Somehow, some way, it just worked itself out. I left one school, went to another, went back. So DC has always been my backyard playground, and I always treated it like that.
Okay.
I'm talking like, by 5, my dad was bringing me in the city and letting me see just about every intricate notion of it, whether it be how blasphemous U Street used to be, or how truly inner city Shaw was.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw all of that. So then to grow, 2008, we get an African American president. We get a lot of tourism. We get a huge, booming restaurant hospitality scene. Changes the landscape of the residents, changes the landscape of the buildings, and how they associate to Washington compared to DC, because I always say there's a difference. I say Washington is like the monuments, the presidential Golden Triangle district area, right? All of that history and nostalgia, whereas DC, the district, the culture is the people, the music, the vibe, all of the above that we live for, right? And seeing that change, there's positives and there's absolutely negatives behind it, and I've lived in, and most of my time period, I've lived in Northwest while I've been in DC. So Adams Morgan, Columbia Heights, and LaDroit Park, Shaw area, right? And so, I know Admo because, I used to, as a kid, my parents used to go there, Kilimanjaro.
He's speaking about Adams Morgan for those who don't know.
Sorry, I just cut it short, you know what I mean? I ain't about to say Cohi for Columbia Heights, but we talking about Adams Morgan, so we call it Admo, right? And then to see Columbia Heights, which was, majority Latino, you know what I mean? And then to see where in Columbia Heights, where now the mall is at, and see the different bodies of life, different walks of life crossing on a daily basis, and just being blown away. It's damn, I see all these young professionals here that have no mindset to know what the history was prior. They're all transit. And then we have these, we have young African American people, and there's nothing but tree in the air. You can smell nothing but marijuana. You got a Section 8 project across the street that might be the only one that still exists in the area, off of Columbia and Girard and whatnot. And then and now you have all these high rises that nobody that originally lived in the neighborhood
condos
could pay for.
Right. So that's my next question, the gentrification happening in DC, and as it relates to the bar industry, what have you seen, noticed, and any desires or
We have a nightlife commission here in DC. This is a new mayor's office, appointed position as well as department that will oversee and regulate items that happen within the hospitality, food, beverage, hotel industry that will bring more positive light to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. in the last decade has become not only just a destination that people truly want to become, it is actually, within the last 3 years, has been the #1 food market in the entire U.S.
That's crazy.
I say that confidently because I just want to point out how many of my friends have come that work in this industry, live in this industry, live in DC, are not originally from here. And the timeline of when they arrived. We're talking 2016, when we had Bon Appetit, #2 best restaurant in the United States of America. Then it happened 2 years later in 2018 with Medan. So we went from Bad Saint to Medan, right? I know both of the chefs at both of those establishments. I love them all. And then also to then be considered #1 food food city that same exact year, and Michelin star rated that same exact year. And then to get 1 stars, and then to get 2 stars, Little Washington, within the first 3 years, right? So they're giving the prestige to this place. Now let's talk about all the chefs that are in this city. We're talking about chefs from as close as Baltimore with Enrique from 7 Reasons. Or you have chefs coming from other countries to, we have chefs from New York with say Mamafuku and all of the above. Yeah. Places that have thrived in other markets that typically weren't considering DC as a place. Now DC is very small. This is also a positive and a negative. It's 10 square miles across in any direction, right? Then you end up in 2 states. The breakdown of that is saturation. It's gotten to a point where there is so many quality establishments that just on the guest personnel or a guest segment, they can go to a new place they've never been to every single day if they can afford it, 365, and never go back to the next one.
That's nuts.
Right?
In an area so small.
Now, on top of that, there's so many positions open, but not enough qualified applicants. What I'm saying is there's the need for barbacks, there's need for bartenders, need for servers, but everything is elevating because of the trajectory of what our social climate is, right? Our current affair here in Washington, D.C. So even our dive bars are quality, you know?
Right.
And truly, you know, you have Grand Duchess, you have the Blackguard, you have Last Call. Like all of these places want to consider themselves as dive bars, and I can get nothing but craft beer in them, which is great because typically they're getting a great price point because they're just burning through it, so which means that it's cheaper, right? So they're not hitting you over the head, but with that now discerns the quality of individuals that need to be in there, the education they need to have. And so many people are trying to make a fast buck, but not trying to learn the craft. And so you have establishments that should be doing extremely well.
Shut down.
And they're either shutting down or they just don't have the backbone to like show face that like what cuisine and what beverages they have in their program, it doesn't correlate to the guest relationship once they sit down because they're either talking to somebody who doesn't know what they're saying or can't sell to that person or treat that person with the level that their expectations should be met. You know, so that lies one problem. Now, one positive of it is that economically, DC is very also unique. We fought Initiative 77. Don't need to go too far into that. We won, thank God. But DC and the notion of like its market, its food and beverage hospitality industry is the number 2 largest industry in DC, like as in numbers of individuals that are employed in it, comparative to the federal government. It's the number 3 most. It's the number 3 most revenue producing, comparative to the federal government in real estate, right? So you have all these people that are, you know, are finding themselves, you know, either second jobs, second incomes, or just they're making this their career, their full time, right, in the city, getting recognition, going to other places and people are calling us out like, yes, we're doing it, or going to competitions and constantly winning. Right. Gotta be proud of that, right? And it is due to the fact that since everything is elevating, the people that really do care are really also pushing themselves to the limit. And we have some talented people, we have talented establishments, we have a very talented city. You know, the culture of DC is not one that can be taken lightly. You know, we match up against New York, Chicago, LA, Miami. I would never move to another concrete jungle if I moved from Washington, D.C. And so San Diego and Miami, get ready for Frank Mills. But I'm just saying, eventually.
Yeah. So, man, that was a great breakdown from that perspective. Yeah. So also on the other side of gentrification, right? Because that is one side of it. Is the growth. Yeah. On the other side of it, similar to in the suburbs when we find a bunch of land and we mow it down and put homes there,
right.
You still have deer standing in your front yard.
You see the deers in the front yard trying to figure out where the vegetation is.
Yeah, this is my path. Now I'm out here. So similar to that, you know, these establishments, these condos and stuff like that, they kind of set down in the middle of the hood. So the interaction between that and the people are still there.
Look, we're in Shaw right now. This is technically Shaw right off of Howard's campus. This building that we're in is now a residential commercial space. We're the commercial space, there's residents above us in the Atlantic Plumbing building that used to be nothing but plumbing items. Like literally you found all your spare parts for plumbing in this large warehouse, right? We go to the left. We go to the left, and now we see 3 buildings that, you know, have been erected within the last decade that you can't see the old neighborhood on 9th and on 7th Street and, you know, Florida Ave that used to be there. Now, mind you, I see, and I'm not saying anything negative when I say this, but at 12, 1, 3 a.m. in the morning, I see Caucasian people running down the street, taking jogs with their dogs.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That was not always the case.
Of course not.
That was not always the case. Bro, I used to be scared to be on some of these streets. And I'm from here. I used to frequent them and still was at unease. Now I'm cruising. I might be wasted, stumbling down the street. I don't feel like I'm about to get my pockets robbed. You know? So on a local crime side, it might be seen as a positive, right? But then we're talking, once again, going back to the original, individuals. We're talking places like Petworth, Georgia Avenue, the South Side, the Anacostia side, but even if you come in closer to the Navy Yard side, things of that nature, it's a full flip. And when I say full flip, I'm talking, let's talk about rent and mortgages. They've gone up in the thirds, like by a third or by times 3, like that big of a stretch. Right now, people's expectations were to come home, make money, and build their houses and live, for the entirety of their life, generations of life, right? Now these places are getting forced to be bought out. These banks, these real estate companies are coming in and they're talking to these residents, these tenants, and giving them options that are seen to be positive. But at the end of the day, the place that they consider now home, this is truly their home, they have to move from, and they can't buy back in. Not for the sake that it's not available to them, for the sake that they can't afford it, and solely for the fact that they have considered gentrification as a renovation. And a renovation would mean a uplifting, right? And a development that now has found its positive. It should be the same way for the people, whether there's educational programs or there's incentive-based programs, monetary, incentives that aren't just like, here's a buyout, So I constantly see it, whether it just be the individuals that I know are gonna be on the corner of 7th and Florida Ave, that realistically, their homes are right down there. That's why they feel so comfortable there.
No doubt.
But they ain't walking to their homes at night. They may be walking to the shelter up the street, Yeah.
So I think that's a good stopping point, man, for this part of our shoot here. And then we're gonna get into the booze. We're gonna talk about Roy Boys, all that good stuff, and keep it moving.
I'm all for it.
Let's do it, man.
The power up is a notion of waking people up. Bacardi Ocho being the base of it. Painkillers are usually light and dark rum, pineapple, orange juice, and coconut cream. Rum happens to actually be my first love when it came to spirits. I just learned it because it was what was in my household. It was things that I immediately jumped to because I understood, molasses and sugars, and being a West African in the Mid-Atlantic, these were things that sat well with me. This one is gonna have a little bit of flair to it, but that's just me. So let's start by taking a Collins glass, filling it to the brim with ice. You'll see why in a little bit. First ingredient is gonna be acidulated orange juice. This is gonna be an ounce of what I call spiced mango. The reason that it's spiced is because we actually grate nutmeg into the mango itself. Nutmeg is actually a natural garnish. It's like the true garnish of a painkiller. Once it's all said, nutmeg and cinnamon, then you put it on top. A big ingredient for painkillers is coconut cream. That is, in my favorite form, Coco Lopez. And then lastly, I batch it here for consistency and speed, but it is 2 parts of the ingredient base. One being the Bacardi Ocho, and then the other part being what we call champagne poppy. Now, being that powering up is kind of a way of celebrating life, building up life. You can't celebrate without popping bottles. So champagne poppy is actually passion fruit syrup that incorporates champagne folded into it. So I take champagne bottles, I take a little bit of sugar, and then I take passion fruit puree, and I make that into what we call champagne poppy, and then we match that with the Bacardi Ocho. So you have 1.5 ounces of the Bacardi Ocho and 1/4 ounce of the champagne poppy, which makes the batch 1 ounce and 3/4 pour. Dump that all in, and we now just dump this ice that we put in. and you have yourself something nice and refreshing to remind you to just cherish life and continue on your day. Power up.
All right, baby, we back. So let's talk about, well, you broke this down, of course. So let's talk about this cocktail just briefly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at how it sits within this whole program, because you took over the cocktail program here at Roy Boys.
So we opened our doors February 15th as a grand opening, February 15th of last year, 2019. Prior to that, the space we took over from another establishment November 1st of 2018. So it took a couple months, we were able to flip it, but obviously there was, very specific parameters. We couldn't change the bar, you don't break down things, they're attached to a building. So within that time period, I was able to come up with a 7 cocktail menu, and with that, it depicted 2 things. One, items of our namesake. Roy Boys is main proteins, and what's underneath our name is fried chicken and oysters.
Right.
So with fried chicken, you have savory, you have sweet, you have spicy. With oysters, you have salinity, you have brine, you have crisp. Right. So in that same vein, some of my cocktails, either paired well with them, complemented well, or were neutral. In essence. This would probably, being the power up, being that like sweet kind of savory, this would probably roll with some of our chicken. And also like our Nashville hot chicken, this would kind of be like a balancing agent for it,
Yeah.
The power up is the #1 selling cocktail in, the year that we've had Roy Boys. With that, cocktails have been king here, and then follow suit. Our draft beers, I solely do local draft beers, whereas like bottles, ponies, cans, that's where I get a little more traditional, things that people can hug and stick to, they already know. But I'm big on local, we all know that. So, I support those that support us and vice versa. If you look at my walls, you can see some of the spirits, and you can understand the relationships that I've made and why they're here in this building and why they work well. With the power up, we also have say like the city newsstand. Those are 2 that you love the city newsstand.
Those are my 2 favorites right there.
They can't leave the building. I think I'd have like a mutiny. They would like kick me out if I decided to take them off the menu. Dude. I'm happy about it. I'm really proud of them.
Amazing, man.
Thank you. So being that I love the painkiller, being that I love whiskey and old fashions, that's where the city newsstand draw in. This one specifically, with its mango that, I was just saying, being a West African from the Mid-Atlantic, I always ate, fruits that were from all over, but mangoes are one of my biggest loves. I eat it straight through the peel. Actually, the peel is my favorite part. And then I get to the flesh, it gets messy and whatnot, but so be it. The champagne poppy, the champagne passion fruit syrup was actually something that a friend of mine hit me to, and I was like, I have to have this for this legacy competition. You have to teach me how to make it, and then I was able to formulate it into my own specs so that it matched the cocktail. But that was all based off of celebrating. I'm a vocal, happy, boisterous individual.
Who would have guessed that?
The reason being is because, as cliche as it is to say, YOLO is real.
Yeah.
You literally only live once, and I'm enjoying the hell out of this one
No
shot.
doubt, son.
And I also, on another spirit side of things, I really truly believe that I'm gonna make a way to at least live to 101. So thank you, Wild Turkey, for giving me some inspiration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm making it, dog.
I'm with you on that.
So being that this is 1/3 of my life, there's a lot to have celebrated throughout that. And even in that same vein, there's a lot more to push forward. And that's what I'm constantly trying to do, is trying to find a new step, a new direction, not even new direction, but refining the direction that I'm on, the path that I'm on. The power up is something that joyously allows me to just like sit back and chill, while also reminding myself, yo, it's go time.
I could easily be done with this by now.
I know. I know.
Busy,
look, the happy part of this is it sells, and I'll get you to get another.
Listen, man, like I told you off camera, I made a painkiller for the first time yesterday, and hey, I don't even want to do that anymore.
Right, come on through, baby.
So good, man.
Thank you.
So what's the? So we talked about fried chicken and oysters.
Yes.
The concept of the restaurant itself, though, the aesthetics, the themes of the bathrooms.
So when first opened, there's 3 partners. We have Marlon Marshall, really good friend of mine. Scott Parker and Lee Smith, also, of course, really great friends of mine. With that, Marlon Marshall being African-American, young entrepreneur, GM and manager of multiple establishments prior, done everything in the food and beverage industry. Scott Parker, serial entrepreneur is his actual title. The man can own just about anything he wants because he's focused, razor sharp, and is somebody to look up to in the essence of what gears and steps that you can take to be successful. Lee Smith, he's the underlying giant. Like, he's like the snake in the grass. You don't see it, and he comes and bites you, but in the best way possible. You know what I mean? Like, he's very sharp. He's very much there. He's very driven, very focused, and monetarily, the boy's got it.
Indeed.
So it's great to be in bed with these guys, right? What they were able to initially conceptualize that we've been able to build and grow was, one, a niche. People don't always look at it this way, of surf and turf. That is our own unique model of it.
Okay.
You have people that will always know chicken and shrimp or lobster and steak.
Yeah.
But we're mid-Atlantic boys that, grew up in the 80s and the 90s that listen to hip hop, And so with that, we know oysters really well. It's like knowing crabs. Like, if you're from Maryland, you don't eat crabs, you're damn near blasphemous if you don't have like seafood allergies. Like, you gotta get out, right?
I have shellfish.
See, I'm not hating on you, brother. There you go. And so the next portion of that was fried chicken. There's a lot of establishments that sell fried chicken. There's a lot of establishments that have made their bread and butter off of fried chicken. Yeah. Like, fried chicken sells. It's like vodka pays the bill, fried chicken sells, right? And so being able to do both of those well, right? Picking uniquely fresh styles of oysters that, are coming out of the water within 24 hours and arriving in front of you on a plate filled with ice. Or fried chicken with multiple different flavor profiles that doesn't just feel like somebody put breading on it and threw it in the batter, and threw it in the fryer, Right. Our brine quality, how long it goes, we're very meticulous in just about everything we do. And that is an ode to my chef, as well as all the places all of us collectively have come from to then become one entity and make this. With Roy Boys, I touched on it a little bit, like the hip hop aspect of it. Literally all of us, Chef Will, all of my managers, both of the owners, or all 3 of the owners, I should say. Now also having John Rennick, my cool, Big JR, cool dude, right? Super cool dude, and also very focused. A part of this ship. Every single one of us, on a daily basis, we're banging, what we just talked about, new Freddie Gibbs, you know what I mean, or old school Wu-Tang, you know what I mean, bumping beats of Biggie. So collectively, in my head, when I'm making cocktails, if you ever see me, I'll ask any of my old employees or coworkers, they'll say I'm probably singing half the time. I'm finding a rhythm.
I noticed that about you.
Yeah, I find a rhythm through the verses that are flowing through my head, and then it allows me to just keep cranking. Days when I used to be at Jack Rose on the rooftop terrace, and it was just like madness, and it was Volume Monster. The music was keeping me going. Yo, I used to sidestep, I used to flank, I was getting it going, but it was because I had a cadence, right? So for us to acoustically feel comfortable, in our own skin and our own establishment was a big thing. Yeah. Right? Something that people could relate to as well. Yeah. Right? And then aesthetically to match that. Now we're talking about these hip hop figures. We're talking about legends, of the game. And then even your world is our oyster backdrop. You have pop culture and famous figures that people immediately stick to, can grasp. That was what it was. It was like you walk in, you immediately feel comfortable, you immediately either feel at home or you find something that truly resonates with you, right? Yeah. Now our bathrooms. Call this establishment the House of Big. We have a second establishment we were able to open within the same year. Whew. Yeah, Navy Yard, right? Whew. I'll tell you what. Open 2 places in the same city in the same year, bro. My God. I'm clapping right now because I'm happy we did it. I'm clapping we got through it too. Look, year 1, baby. It's a lot to do. So the breakdown there is that the other establishment is the House of Woo. Reason being, is the bathrooms.
I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, so check it out. So here, a lot of people know it's probably the most photographed part of our building, of our establishment, is the bathrooms. Our wallpaper is Biggie Ready to Die wallpaper, but with the crown on them, right? And we have a separate amp in the bathroom that solely plays Biggie beats at all times.
Boom.
All times. You are having a concert every time you go to the bathroom.
Every single time I've done it.
and listen, I'm talking, it shows up in Instagram feeds, it shows up on IG stories, it shows up on like in the photos that people are tagging us in, like, and we're very happy that, you know, a place that most people don't really want to say they frequent, you know, they're finding some solace in it.
Right. Listen, I'm telling y'all, no matter what's playing out here, when you go in there, you're gonna get some biggie.
You got some solid biggie. It might be some gangster biggie too, you know.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's how we operate. It kind of is what it is. Trust us that we're gonna put forth a quality product. We're not trying to ruffle any feathers. We're just trying to do us, and that is us through and through. And like I said, the other establishment has Wu-Tang in the bathroom, and both bathrooms have different wallpapers. One has the black and yellow classic Wu background wallpaper, and it's just the W all the way up and down stripe. The second bathroom has white and yellow, so they're contrasting, but both of them always Wu bangers. So you might walk in there and they be like, I keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you, or bootleg on my form like Voltron, you know what I mean? Or you got ODB in the background saying something blasphemous, you know?
Oh,
but
man, I can't wait.
That is kind of our speed, you know? For the end of the day, we enjoy what we do because we enjoy the place we're doing it at.
There's nothing like this in the city, period. There's nothing like it. This is my spot. And we didn't even talk about the garage doors that open up in the spring.
So the truth behind me, we have 4 garage like bay doors that are on hydraulic lifts that open up like a full canopy, so they become their own barrier to deter like inclement weather, rain and stuff. Like whenever it rains, when it's warm outside, we just lower it a couple of degrees down, and now it becomes its own drain, and everybody's still able to just hang out there. Yep. We have what we call a garden patio license, so we're able to put a barrier out, and then from that door all the way to right before the kitchen. So 3 bay doors we're able to lift up. Now we have roughly another 15 more seats and like realistically another 50 more people that allot our establishment from going to 1,800 square feet to roughly 3,000. The second establishment has more conventional patio space where we have larger tables just outside. It doesn't have these garage doors open. But it's not only just, you know, a unique thing, it's actually like transforming an indoor space into an all-weather space at any given point in time you're ready to do it, or, you know, is really cool. And so our parameters are, if it's 60 degrees or higher, or it's 90 degrees or lower, they're going to be open. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, we'll do it.
I'm out, you can find me. You can find me out there. If I find a seat outside, I'm always out there.
Got it.
And then the tacos, the ice cream tacos, dude.
That would be Chef Will.
Yeah.
So we are one of the most Instagrammable places in Washington, D.C. when it comes to cuisine. Now, mind you, the reason is not because we do everything better than anybody, that we have like the most, you know, flamboyant presentation. It's because we put passion behind it. Like I said, the way we make our chicken is different than everybody else's. I'm very impressed with it. And I'm a pescatarian now, you know? So I stick to one side of our menu comparative to everybody enjoying all of the above, right? You know, our chicken sandwiches are just stellar, you know, and the fact that there's a multitude of different flavors. Options, big on options. So
chicken sandwich is monster.
Thank you, bro. So the ice cream tacos. This was really where we were like, you know what? Yes, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to set ourselves apart. We're going to run Bloody Marys all day long, and they're going to have 2 different styles of Bloodies, Rojo and Verde. That would be my doing, and I really love them. And then we're going to have 3 ice cream tacos at all times, every single day of the week. It's our only style of dessert, and they're always going to be different flavors. So once a week, Taco Tuesday, right?
Word.
Tuesday. We're gonna go half-price tacos, and we get a new taco that comes in, ice cream taco. We use vanilla soft serve that we have. We have different styles of shells, but the shells themselves are all waffle cone shells that have then been pressed into a taco form. We fill that with the vanilla soft serve, and then we top them with a multitude of different things. Sometimes it's just what's on Chef Will's mind, so you just get unique and crafty. Sometimes it's based off of like a holiday or an event, like the taco we have right now currently, which is the strawberry Pop-Tart taco with strawberry jam, strawberry filling, vanilla soft serve cream.
I sent a picture to my son the other day.
It's silly. And the taco shell itself is red, obviously in essence of Valentine's Day. So for us, it's constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve by doing something unique constantly as well.
Yeah, you're pushing it, man. You're pushing the limits. So that's dope, man. I'm happy for you, man. You know, you come a long way. You know, when, you know, of course, it was a sad event when it's like, I'm leaving Jack Rose. Everybody's like, what? Previously, like, you know,
I was there for synonymous. A long time. That was that was home. Those walls with so many whiskeys on them. You know, yeah, like, well, every single day, just like corral around you, and you just feel like, wow, it's an honor to be in this space. You know,
yeah, it is. It's really that.
And I, you know, the friendships, the relationships, the people that I would always have with me because of that space, and all the other spaces I've been at in the city, you know, have been, you know, really, you know, amazing, and allowed me this this notoriety that people can trust that I'm going to put forth a good product.
Yeah, no doubt.
One, because of where I came from and the efforts that I put forth, right? Speaking of efforts, like, these shelves weren't on this wall. This back bar wasn't formulated the same way, this way, prior to, because this place wasn't made for a craft bartending bar. It was made for a turn and burn burger shop, you know, prior to. So I had to uniquely look to how to make this space, you know, functional, form, as well as, you know, the ability to just bust out, you know, due to the fact that we got a 360 bar. Right. The fact that it has to look good at all times because people can see every aspect of the bar at all times. There's literally not a single space if you're a guest at our bar you can't see. Right. So it's just like the mentality of building, you know, a sense of urgency, a mentality of building a sense of cleanliness, a mentality of always staying guest focused. You know, I've been able to put my efforts into curating a program with my staff that I truly cherish, that now can be enjoyed, but then to see the fruit of my labor, you know, this is what we call the toddler, whereas Roy Boys 1 is the newborn-ish. Or Roy Boys 2, right. Roy Boys 2 and Navy Yard is the newborn-ish, right? So it's because you have two babies in 1 year and you get to see them grow and you get to see them prosper, and you get to say my thumbprint is on that, you know, my signature.
Nobody can ever take it away, man.
And so as these be the flagships, if we ever make more, never in the city again, because we don't want to step on our own toes, right? We have one in Northwest, we have one in Southeast. They literally catty corner the city. Depending on where you're at in the city, you can find a home in Roy Boys, right? That's in a decent vicinity. So for me, that's one thing, is like, these will always structurally be sound as Roy Boys 1 and 2. They'll always be the cutout, how we carve something new if we get the chance to do so, which I hope, right? Yeah. Then we're going to Miami and LA and
I'll be there.
Casinos. Let's do it, baby.
You know me. No, I'm in Miami, baby.
So I think we have time, right?
That's good. All right, cool.
You enjoying your power up?
Oh my God, this one's gone you
I'll make you another.
So I have some questions from the peers. So my man Torrance, aka Brother Agave,
T Swain.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. He says, where do you find your discipline and what is your biggest obstacle against it?
Okay. My discipline comes from my family. I have a very large family, and I've always known what love is due to it. And because of that, and being an only child, and being the firstborn in my family, first in my generation, there was always eyes on me. There was always expectations too, that I had of myself to live up to those individuals, to live up to what expectations they also had of me. So I'm very much so self-motivated. I find a trigger in any given thing. I find beauty in just about anything. You know, even if it's, you know, minuscule or small. And I try to amplify that. It's not always just my voice or my actions that are being boisterous. It's kind of like how I'm approaching things mentally before I take one step to the next. It's like trying to be methodical. I use methodical and meticulous very much. And it's because it's true. Like, engineering is something that intrigues me because you're able to break and decipher things that actually work and are functional. And then when you understand that, you can do so much more with it. That's the power there. The obstacle is taking the obstacles that arise from that is either taking on a lot because my expectation is I'm going to be able to finish them.
You're going to nail it.
It's just regardless of it's just sometimes the timeline, right? And then secondly, also not necessarily taking on too much, but extending myself unnecessarily. I'm always going to be a people's person, right? But the trigger that my mom has that my dad didn't, small world, because they're complete polar opposites, and that's how I work out, is my mom will cut you off and say no in a heartbeat. She's an authoritarian. So I use that to my advantage because I've seen how you focus and get things done. I also see how you can have more friends than God himself, you know, without being blasphemous, and that would be my dad. And now let me put one or two in one or either in front or behind, you know, but because of it, you know, I want to be people's mentor. I want to be able to aid where I can, you know, if physically somebody needs me to be somewhere so they feel more comfortable, right? But mind you, let's go back to the timeline. If I have something I need to take care of, things like my own businesses, things like, you know, platforms that I want to really, you know, shine on because that's my next level of progression. You know, I just always need to remind myself that accomplishments are going to come. You don't need every single one of them. You don't need every single one of them right now. And with that, you know, as long as you focus, trust me, you'll obtain the majority of what you need to get done.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's a dope answer, son.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's dope, man. There's a lot of depth to that. I have another question from one of your peers, but we're going to wait till this sneaker segment to ask that one.
Right.
So let's break real quick and then set back up and get to the business.
Got it.
All right?
Got it.
Cool. All right, baby. Here we go. So, yeah, we're gonna get to the sneakers. You know what I'm saying? This whiskey and kicks, baby. That's how it goes. So I'm gonna start this off with a question that you don't necessarily have to answer right now.
All right.
But you maybe have to think about it while we're talking. You let me know after I ask this question. So Alyssa Bonk. Right? She says, I want to know an accurate number of how many pairs of shoes Frank owns. So if you can answer now, you go
listen,
for
why
it.
you throwing me under a bus like that, man? I look terrible when I respond to those questions. I could be doing so much better with my money.
This is the life we chose. This is the life we chose.
All right.
But you know, we can get to that towards the end. Talk to me about this jacket, man.
All right. So I wore this jacket truly as a replacement, and I'm going to apologize for it, for not having the shoes that also associated, the kicks that associated with. So I purchased this jacket in Art Basel in Miami. My second time ever being in Miami. First time with French for Legacy. Now we talked about the Power Up. We went through the entirety of Roy Boys, and then I get to take a break right before our our first holiday season ever, and I go to Miami. I go to Art Basel. I'm a big fan of art, the self-expression of it, as well as, you know, the uniqueness of it, the creativity that people have. I tell people all the time, I'm not an artist. I'm more of a numbers person. So you know, like one side of your brain and the other, right? And I dissect things really well. Once I see it, then I can find out all the ingredients, all the parts that build it up, and I can then tell you everything. Right. But creativity is
debatable, brother.
Yeah.
Not an artist think it's debatable, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Cool. But at the same time, like I also now have found this fond appreciation for art. And go back to that question Alyssa was about to out me on. I collect things really well. I have a curation of, I think about like 5 specifics, right? Shoes, one big one, right? Art, like specifically like canvas, oil art, things of that nature, heavy. Glasses, and when I'm not talking about like eyeglasses, I'm talking about like beer glasses. I actually had an Instagram, like a ghost Instagram page for a long time called The Pint Hoarder that I didn't do anything with, but I wanted to make it a blog about how many glasses I've curated over the years, and I have a fondness for like style, not in like the wording on them, basically saying that I have one. If you brought over a beer, if you brought over a wine, you brought over a whiskey, I would have the appropriate glass for it if it didn't just come from the distillery, brewery, or the event, the festival.
That's hard. That's hard.
Right? Hats. Okay. I have a dirty thing for hats. But, you know, it's because I always said, you know, I'm not necessarily materialistic, but when it came to the top and the bottom of my wardrobe, that's where I shine. I don't always, look, my friends always like the clown, you know what I mean? I always have things that most people don't have. Like, that's just what I do. That's my uniqueness. I'll wear something that nobody else has. But it might not look as great as if you decided to put it all together. But I'll tell you what, if I had my shoes, gonna be the flyest thing walking through that door.
No doubt.
But to get back to the jacket, this jacket goes hand in hand with the shoes that I got done in Art Basel. I had wore the very first night that I was there, all white outfit, and these white leather shoes, Grand Voyage, Italian leather shoes. I was walking through an art gallery and I saw this artist that I vibe with really hard. Her name's Cartella. I am Cartella on Instagram. And we start talking. As I'm leaving, I walk out and I had taken multiple pictures because I had the time to do so. It was the beginning of Art Basel, so not many people were there yet, waiting for the weekend. Taking so many pictures, and I noticed a lot of the times I was taking the pictures, I was taking them with like downwards at things that were on the ground.
Yeah.
And my shoes were constantly in it. Like my psyche was telling me, take your white blank canvas shoes that has nothing on it and take a photo with this artwork that's on the ground. And as I'm walking out, I'm a big fan of Nipsey Hussle. I walk out and the walkway is a blue carpet. It's Nipsey blue carpet is what it says. And it's just literally like a hard, like plank of wood that like actually became a platform out and that other artists had spray painted.
Yeah.
And I looked down and took a photo of that, and as I look at the photo, I was like, a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I'm gonna get somebody to write on my shoes. So I like walk back in and like go back and talk to Cartella. I was like, hey, quick question. Do you happen to have any acrylic on you? She's like, no, and she kind of looks at me. I think she gets it right away that I'm thinking like I want something from her, right? And she's like, but I do have this big ink pen. She like pulls it out of her like a fanny pack. She has this green fanny pack. So I got this big ink pen. I was like, would you like to tag my shoes? She's like, yeah. So
That's hard.
We pull over to walk like inside like by the staircase. She sits down on the stairs and she starts tagging my shoe on my shoe, and she writes she goes, thoughts become things. When you take that into consideration of how I got to her drawing the shoe on my shoe, thoughts become things, physical, right? And then she put her crown, her logo on it. And when I look back up, there's cameras everywhere. People are taking video of all of this, you know what I mean? And I'm just somehow center of attention.
So Frank Mills right there. That's so Frank Mills.
So the next day, I did not wear these shoes. But before I left, I talked to another artist. And he was in the middle of doing a mural, and I was like, "Hey, is there any way that you would want to tag this?" He's like, can you give them to me? I was like, nah. That moment thought of 3 rules, right? The 3 rules were: 1, the shoes have to be on my feet, right? Number 2 is that you can take up the entirety of the shoe. And then lastly, that the landing strip where the laces were at, right? You couldn't paint on that, right? So there would be one place in my head that was like all uniform, which would be the white landing strip where all the laces are at. Everything else could be chaos theme, right? So he's like, come back on another day. I'm like, sure. Saturday, my friends are doing the main event. They're spinning here. They're coming from DC. I'm gonna be here, right? Now Saturday come, and there's so many more artists. Now, mind you, the first day that I was there, that Thursday, I had gone and seen a few things that I'd like. I came down there, Art Basel, to acquire some stuff too, bring back home with me. The number one thing I saw that I wanted to take home was this dollar bill that was splatter painted in like highlight splatter, and then was put in a wooden encasement with like a glass like enclosure, right? So just a display, a dollar bill. It was $200. It was from Uncut. Uncaso, Uncut Art, Protect Your Heart. This individual is notorious for going around the world and tagging on the ground and on structures, buildings, Protect Your Heart. It's his stencil, right? Amongst other phrases that he has, but Protect Your Heart is the most known one. It has its own Instagram page. His name is Uncut, Uncutt, and nobody's ever seen his face. So he covers his face at all times. I'd gone through his whole exhibit. One of the photos that I had taken was prior to this light bulb going off in my head about the shoes, was one of his Protect Your Hearts on the ground. Now, I'd seen it in DC, I'd seen it in New York, so I was like, oh, I know this. I leave on Saturday. I come back. As I'm walking around, I find a few other artists. This other artist who does paints with acrylic in a beer bottle. He literally takes the beer bottles, he takes the mouth of it, he puts it in acrylic paint, and he does dots all over the painting until it turns into something grandioso, like a portrait or like, you know, object. Yeah. Vicious, right? Super vicious. So I document all of this. I get him. I saw him doing artwork earlier that Thursday, and to see it has evolved into what he finalized on Saturday, right? I go to this other exhibit where I was looking at this beautiful woman who had like portraits of herself turned into artware and jewelry that she makes, that she used the jewelry as like on, like glued into the artwork, so that like it popped. On the other side of it was another individual's that I didn't get a chance to meet at the time, was another individual's artwork in gallery. Come to find out, that's the brother of the girl on the other side. Earlier, prior to me missing him for a second, I was talking to their mom. I just walked up, I was like, this artwork's awesome. And the mother started talking to me. I come to find out it's the mother of the daughter. Their other daughter is just there, you know. And then they all leave to go to lunch. He says bye to me. I never say hi to the brother. Then I go to the other side. I see his gallery, Trace, Art by Trace, or Art is Trace, or Trace is Art. I gotta remember, but I have the hashtag for it, right? And so he's super dope. But I'm talking to their their merchant handler, right, who stayed. So if anybody wanted to purchase anything, we're just running down the ironies and things of all this happening. She's like, "Oh, your shoes look cool. The guy here loves doing shoe art." Now let's jump back into it. I go and I'm walking through the exhibit and I see this guy walking around who's got like a face mask on, and I'm just like, I don't know who this dude is, but whatever. There's a bunch of artists. Right. Everybody's eclectic. Right. I go back into the gallery of Uncut. I'm gung-ho on buying that dollar bill now. I go to look at the dollar bill and I look over to my right. I had seen the entire exhibit. Somehow I did not see this coat rack that was off to the right of the dollar bill. So I open I start pulling from the coat rack, and all of them have unique one-off jackets, but each one has like protect your heart on it in multiple different ways. There'll be a patch, like a biker patch style, and then embroidered inside the biker patch, the protect your heart, different colored styles. So, you know, truly it's ironic because I see this jacket, it's playoff colors. I'm wearing this hat, which, or it's Nationals colors. I'm wearing this hat that, we're talking Joe Fresh Goods. He's independent artist who just makes really super dope clothing. He got New Era to allow him licensing for 4 different hats. Right. Yankees, Houston Astros, LA Dodgers, and the Nationals. This was all before the playoffs. So somehow he had the premonition enough to get 4 playoff teams and then 2 of the World Series, and ultimately the champions, baby. The world champions. So I'm noticing, and one, the reason I bring it up is because I don't have any other Nationals red hats. This is the only one. I'm a big collector of hats. I have probably like 25 different W's in my arsenal. None of them, they're multiple different colors of blue because I wear that more than anything else. None of them are red. This is the only one I have. I saw Joe Fresh Goods when I was leaving Miami at the airport and ended up having him take a photo. Serious? That's how this all kind of folds in. Yo. Things were happening that were well beyond like just normal coincidence. But the biggest coincidence is I see this jacket. Before I went to Art Basel being a place of self-expression, I have a denim extra large Levi's jacket that my friend Dan, who's an artist here in DC, is reinforcing the patches. This is a full self-expression. I bought every single patch on it, put it all over it, and then like ironed them on. Some of them stuck, some of them did not. So I gave it to him after seeing some of his work, reinforce it. A few months go by and I was like, hey, I'm about to go to Art Basel. Is it possible to get this jacket from you? True story is it's about to actually be done this week, finally, which is A-okay. But I couldn't take that light denim jacket that's an extra large down so I could flex in it. I get down there, I see this navy blue dark denim, and I go, before I even pull it off the rack, I go, please don't be an extra large. And I pull it off, and it's a fucking extra large dark denim jacket. Now I'm from a Levi's, my size, before I ever put it on.
Forget about it.
I put it on, and I'm just like, damn. damn, this looks good, right? Like, you're mine. But there's one thing on it that wasn't on it. Actually, there's now 2 things on it that weren't on it. One was this heart, and 2 on the back, the logo, Protect Your Heart, was not actually on the jacket. I looked through the rest of the jackets. Every single one of them had Protect Your Heart on it. So I pull it off, and I'm talking to the lady who's working his art gallery, and I'm like, hey, is there a reason why this doesn't have it on it? And I can see by the expression on her face when she looks at it, she's like, oh shit, that doesn't look right.
Right.
So she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what would it cost? Because I really would love this jacket, but with the Protect Your Heart, if I could do it without the biker patch, but just straight embroidery with Protect Your Heart. And then I've seen him do it before where he's made the art red, right?
Okay.
So it says HE and then ART is red, like art and heart, right?
Nice.
And I've seen that on the ground where he stenciled it before, right? So I'm like, I'd love to do that. And she's like, oh, let me give him a call. And sure enough, he walks into the room. And the guy that I saw with the face mask the whole time earlier was him.
That's crazy.
So I've been walking past this dude this whole time, didn't even know it was him. So he comes in and he's fast as lightning. He's got all types of things to do. And I go, hey bro, she goes, hey, would it be any extra for us to put Protect Your Heart on it? He looks at it and he's like, nah, it wouldn't cost us anything. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, that's a mistake. So it's supposed to be on the back.
It just got missed.
So I get to tell him exactly how I want the jacket. So I didn't get the jacket right away, right? I had paid for it. Then as he leaves out. And I'm like, shit, I should have got a photo with him with the jacket. She's like, let me call him. He's probably on his way to another joint. He's gone, right? So then she's taking down all my information. He's already rolled out. I'm like, all right, whatever. I give her the jacket. I'm about to walk out. And he comes running up the steps. He grabs me. Let's take the photo. Where the fuck you come from? Yeah. So I get to take the photo with him with the jacket on. Mind you, at that moment, I was like, hey, bro, like, hold me down with this jacket. Thank you so much. He's like, don't even stress. I'm gonna flex this jacket for you. And I was like, bro, I love hearts, so this is like one of the biggest things. I think he took that in consideration because this heart wasn't on there. And he added this patch to it, right? So later in the day, I'm now getting all my shoes done. I have 3 artists. The third one was Trace that he is skateboarding while I'm waiting for the dude with the bottle paint to dry. I'm sitting outside and I'm like, yo, I would love to be skateboarding right now and let the air dry this out because every time I travel, the first time I traveled to Miami, I have my longboard. Sure enough, I see this dude with paint all over him, skating around and like cruising around in the back alley where we were at. I'm like, how the hell did this dude just pop up? So I roll up on him and I'm like, hey bro, you an artist? He's like, yeah. I'm like, nice, man. The reason I really came up to you is because I had a couple artists like doing my shoes and I really thought to myself, like, it would be nice to go longboarding, right? And let it dry out. And he's like, true? And I was like, he gets in line to get food and I'm like, hey bro, would you mind you tagging my shoe? He's like, nah. So he gets the other side of the shoe. So now everything is now in black and is in white or black ink. There's no color on the shoe. He starts drawing it up. I'm sitting there recording him. I'm sitting down. When he gets done, as he's finishing, he puts his signature on it and it says Trace. And I realized that's the guy that was in the exhibit that I talked to his mother and his sister earlier and that I had bought. I had a bag on me. The bag had a t-shirt of his sister on it. Like I bought art from his sister's gallery. So this bag I'm holding is connected to this man while doing it. I didn't find out till after he was done.
That's crazy.
So then I was just like, you know what, all this is happening? Let me just ask him, hey, you mind if I go cruise on your longboard for a little bit? He's like, or your cruiser board? He's like, you know where my booth is at? Here you go. Just bring it back when you're done. So I go cruise around Miami now. Around Wynwood. Yeah, I'm cruising around Wynwood, you know? And so I come back out front, small world. As I'm about to walk in, I see Uncut. He's outside doing a mural on the outside board. So I drop off the board, I come back outside. He's doing the mural, and I go, hey bro, would you mind spray painting a heart on my shoes? He doesn't even flinch. He just keeps drawing. I'm still in awe of how much work he's doing. He's just putting everything on it. And he finally looks back and he goes, oh, it's you. He goes, and the next words that come out of his mouth, he goes, you're a paying customer. You get benefits. I got you. Just stay right there. So, mind you, I didn't have any color on my shoe. I also didn't have any hearts on this jacket. He finally comes down. He's like, give me the shoe. Takes the shoe off. He grabs a heart. He puts it on the front toe box of the same shoe that Tracer did. And he spray paints a red heart so fast and it comes out. perfectly. Then he splatters a little bit of red paint. Somehow he misses all the laces with the paint. I didn't even tell him.
Right.
He misses
At that
all
point, you're like,
I'm not even
go.
stressed. Go.
Right.
And I'm so happy with the shoes. At that very moment, I'm like, I could stop right here. The shoes would be great. That's 4 artists. There's a 5th artist. 5th artist, the guy who I saw earlier in the day who had a Biggie painting and was right next to Trace in his sister's gallery, right? He was about to paint something outside. He goes, bro, can I really, he's like the novice of the crew. Like he's the least known of everybody who's done work, right? Can I hit it? I'm like, sure. He's like, I need both shoes. I'm like, sure. So I go and he has his truck bed. He has his truck right out front. So I sit in his truck bed with my good friend, Queenie, and while he paints my shoe off to the side, I can't see. This is the only one that I couldn't visually see while he was doing it. I never told him any of the rules. When the shoes come back, there's so many colors all over it, splattered all over, but they're splattered in the middle, they're splattered inside the shoe, and he covered up a lot of some of the things that like I really cherished about it. And I was just like, fuck. Damn, he just killed the shoes. But I'm in his truck bed, and he did art earlier that day or sometime, and there was wet paper towels that he had used to like wipe off acrylic. And I find one, and I just wipe some of his paint off in certain spots, and then the shoe starts coming to life. Then I wipe the paint that's on the inside of the shoe off, and the shoe is finally perfect.
Perfect.
And I let it dry, and I say, I'm never gonna touch these ever again. And that comes back to the scenario of my friend Martin, who's a professional MMA fighter, right? The shoes are still at his house in Miami because I was with him. I was staying with him. And he was supposed to send them up to me, and he hasn't yet. And I didn't want to fly him up there because I had bought so many other things, plus I had limited space, so I didn't want the shoes to get messed up. This wasn't with me. These came in the mail 2 weeks ago, and I've been wearing the jacket ever since.
Hell yeah.
Right? So like the full flip of all these Miami-esque scenarios somehow work its way into my Whiskey and Kick
That
story.
is incredible, son. There's nowhere to go after this. You understand that, right? I know you brought up his niggas. Nah, son, this is it. That is an incredible story, son. That's dope, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
I'll send you some, when the shoes get up here, I'll send you some photos.
We'll get them
or
in.
you can meet up with me and you can take a look at them and then post them. But yeah, man, like I can't think that there's a circumstance called a coincidence in all of this. It just serendipitously worked its way out the way it was
meant to happen.
I tell people all the time, like, Art Basel isn't a competition, but my ass won that shit.
You won that life. But you know, and look, and let's wrap this up. How can people find you?
So social media. I'm Drink Mills. Just DRNKMILLS. My name is Frank Mills, so swap out one letter for another. Roy Boys. Both of our establishments are Roy Boys DC. So ROYBOYS DC. And you can find content there that will make your mouth water. And then lastly, I love to travel. I'd love to do a pop-up, so reach out, whether it's, directly at my email, frank@royboysdc.com. We can come to your city. I love to travel. I love to show out. I love to have fun. So you invite me and I'll be there.
That wouldn't be a bad experience, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, boss.
Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely.
Great time. So till next time.
There it is. Cheers.
Cheers.
Brocky, keep talking about whiskey and kicks.